Hi, I'm Lindsay, and today we are talking about Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 252 and 253. Good set of chapters. Interesting. Really cool, and then interesting. So at the end of chapter 251, Yuta's domain started to break, and Maki showed up for a sneak attack. Sukuna did not see that one coming, and it was very satisfying. We all knew at one point, we felt deep in our hearts that Maki was going to show up, and she did, and I was so happy. So happy that she was there. Scared for her, but happy. So yes, now these chapters deal with the aftermath of Yuta's domain breaking, and Maki versus Sukuna. It's mostly Maki versus Sukuna. So yeah, let's get into this chapter discussion review. Please like, comment, subscribe, and all of that. The manga is on break this week, so that gives me time to catch up with videos and get this out before any more chapter leaks come out for future chapters. So that is nice for me. I like to be able to catch up. So yeah, let's get into chapter 252. We start this chapter outside of Yuta's domain with Ino and Kusakabe around and discussing the plan that they've made. And Kusakabe says that Yuta did well in moving the location of the barriers for his domain. And Kusakabe tells everyone to surround the barrier so that Maki can barge in and do what we saw at the end of chapter 251. So all of this has been like meticulously planned out. I mean, somewhat meticulously planned out. So Ino is like, maybe more of us should be like entering the domain. And apparently, originally, they had planned for Choso to also go in the domain, which, as a Choso stan, as a person with a Choso's shrine, I would have been so happy to see him there, but like also so worried. But I just like seeing respect on his name. I love to see that for Choso. So Kusakabe thinks it's a bad idea to start letting people just into the domain, and it could ruin Maki's surprise attack because it'll take the concentration off of those in the domain, and her attack will be easier to read. So he's just like, shut up, Ino. That's literally the worst idea I've ever heard of in my life. I mean, not actually. I'm embellishing, okay? So Kusakabe is like, not many of us would be able to just prance around special great sorcerers, which is funny for the next chapter, without a care in the world. And Ino is like, I'm almost certain you could. Also interesting for the next chapter, which is honestly true. I agree with Ino in a lot of ways because I especially since the anime came out, I think a lot about the fact that Kusakabe just like took on Kenjaku's or Geto's ultimate Uzumaki and like completely just totally bodied the hit and was pretty much fine. So Kusakabe definitely underrated. I mean, not anymore, but he could stand on his own if he needed to. But he just doesn't want to. And we see that Maki is just, she's with them killing time. And Kusakabe says to her that it's all her from now. And he also just calls her Zenin, which I'm sure she hates. But Kusakabe seems to be very formal with everyone. Maki prepares herself in a runner stance for her moment when the domain shatters and we get that beautiful panel of Maki in the moments before she attacks. So Kusakabe says that Yuta's signal will come when Sukuna's guard is at its lowest and the domain starts to break. So now we have this massive spread of Yuta being slashed and Rika just reaching out to him and Maki's surprise attack. Now, unfortunately, this panel is unfinished by Gege, and I'm sure in the physical copy when it comes out, it'll look better and it'll be more complete. But in the next two chapters, this section here is like the only part that's unfinished. And seeing that the fact that he also, it's week to week, which already is insane to put out chapters week to week. I already don't know if I even agree with that in general. He also like had a cover to do. He had the volume cover to do, and he did a color page for the next chapter. So he had a lot going on there. It's bound to happen. I'm glad that there's a break this week. He should take as many breaks as he wants. It makes this series last longer, which I like. The last time this happened was also with Maki, when she was fighting the Zenin clan. And after that, Gege took a hiatus for like a month or so, which at the time felt like a year, but it really wasn't that long. Yeah, it's not a big deal. I really don't care. I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often with people, but anyways. So back to the chapter. We also see this this unfinished style with Rika carrying Yuta away, desperately wanting to save Yuta, and Kusakabe calling for Wee, who is honestly the MVP of this entire arc. I mean, because of him, most people believe that Gojo has a chance to still be alive. Like, I am seeing so many people being like, oh, since Wee around Gojo, there's a good chance that Gojo's still alive and kicking. Wee really made that a possibility just by, using his technique. So good for him. I'm so glad he's getting more character than just being Mei's weird little brother that she's grooming. But anyways, so Maki versus Sukuna begins, and Sukuna takes notice that Yuta's domain wasn't destroyed like we originally thought it was, but it was purposefully taken down or shattered, and it was assigned to the ones waiting outside of the domain. So Kusakabe's hunch about Sukuna catching on if more people went into the domain was spot on, because Sukuna is able to figure out this plan within seconds of it happening, like after it happening, and how it was actually supposed to go down. Like, we see this a lot with Sukuna. He is able to figure out if their plans either right before it happens, or what they're going to do, or once it happens, he is able to piece everything together really quickly. But anyways, the gash from the split soul katana is healing slower than any other wounds. So the split soul katana is wielded by one capable of perceiving the soul. Then the wound they imparted, it cannot be ordinarily healed with RCT unless you're aware of the outline of your soul. And of course, Sukuna is aware of the outline of his soul because he is within one body that contains two souls. But since his battle with Gojo, he was unable to fully use RCT to treat his wounds. Seeing the after effects of the Gojo fight, and we always will be. So Yuji is one-track minded right now on getting Fushiguro back, which honestly I think is the best course of action. But his body is struggling, and he falls down and spits out blood, and you can tell he's like panicking and freaking out, and he's like, I know exactly what this is, because even though he's learned RCT, he's also taken so many attacks that would normally kill him, and something in his body hasn't healed, and it seems like he's panicking to figure out what part of his body isn't healing. But in this moment, I'm so happy. If this was the only thing good about this chapter, it would still be a good chapter in my books. Everything in the world feels okay to me again because a hand lays upon Yuji's back, and it is the love of my life, my sweet, sweet boy Choso. He is alive. He's not looking too great, but he's alive, and he is here to support Yuji in his time of need. And I love Choso so much, and I'm so happy I don't have to worry about him for now. Thank God. I love his growth as a character, and just how right now, like, Choso is probably in pain and wounded still, but by Sukuna, but he can feel Yuji's stress and is there to calm him down and help Yuji get a hold of himself again. And yeah, we're just seeing Choso being the good big brother he is. So Choso tells Yuji to remember what he taught him and visualize it. And I like this panel a lot. Allow the blood to spread through every corner of your body like roots, and to visualize an outline of your body made with your veins. And this will help Yuji with his RCT and his new blood. Manipulation powers. So the two go hand in hand quite well, and I can see how it would be difficult to kill someone like Yuji, or Choso for that matter. I mean, Choso is already part curse. I feel like he's genuinely harder to kill. We've seen him go against two crazy characters, Kenjaku and Sukuna, and he's lived. He's lived both times. So he's not an easy character to kill, and I'm just so happy that I chose Choso to be my favorite. I mean, he chose me. I didn't really choose him. I saw him. It was love at first sight. But I'm just happy he's my favorite. Oh my god, but anyways. So Maki is going after Sukuna, and the absolute unit that he is, and the fight between the two continue. And I love how Gege draws Maki when she's fighting. It's so fast, and you can feel the speed of her, and I mean, honestly, both of them. But I love her outfit. I love her look. Oh, she looks snatched all the time, and she looks so good. So Sukuna is able to grab a hold of the split soul katana, but Maki, the badass she is able to just pick his weight up with the sword and throw him onto the ground and then toss him away in this insane way with this lovely facial expression. I just love this moment for her. Sukuna uses cleave to slash up a building, and it seems to just be falling everywhere around them. And if you look closely behind the little sound effect things, he is quietly doing the chants for the world cutting dismantle. And Maki doesn't even notice until he says the last part of the chant, which is twin meteors. And the way that the sound effects of the building crash physically covers the chants when you're reading it is a very nice subtle tidbit that I really enjoyed. I mean, you could entirely miss it if you didn't pay attention. So he uses his world cutting slash, and luckily Maki is able to dodge at last second, and we get to see this beautiful Maki panel that I just adore. She has such cool panels. I thank you, Gege, for that. I appreciate it. And Sukuna says that she can see his technique better than any of the other sorcerers, just like his fight with Mahoraga and Shibuya. So that is an interesting comparison to make. And so far, Sukuna is somewhat impressed by Maki. And Maki notices that he is using cursed energy to force his heart to beat while he's also healing himself. And that what Megumi said about the juvenile detention center was serious, which honestly, I wasn't expecting that to be brought up. Like, that is a callback. Was not expecting that. So Maki is like, how are you gonna continue to use cursed energy to force your heart to beat while fighting me? And Sukuna's like, I've honestly barely even broken a sweat so far. And now we cut to Uraume and Hikari, which is a fight that has been going on since Kashimo, rest in peace to him, I miss him, entered to fight Sukuna. And it's a fight we've barely seen, if any of it, we've barely seen. But Hikari is fairly confident about the Jujutsu sorcerers winning, and he says that Sukuna's presence is easy to read, and when we first saw him, he thought there would be no way that they could win, but the tides are turning, and he believes that they're going to win this fight. And Hikari is also beat up at this point, but he is still standing. He's got ice growing on his shoulder, so that's not good, and it looks like he's been using RCT, like maybe on his face. So it seems very even right now. Uraume might have a bit of an upper hand, I don't know. Uraume, the freaking ultimate poet that they are, says that an auspicious technique leads to ingenuous brain, and is basically like, if Sukuna is fighting an opponent that he deems to be weak, then his cursed energy, it's gonna match that feeling. And that Gojo was the best that they could offer in a fight, and that they should be ashamed. Because even with the effects from his fight with Gojo, it's very clear that Sukuna has yet to go all out in this fight. And then the chapter ends with this foreboding and creepy panel of Sukuna. It's just like, when are we gonna feel hope again? We get hope for like 2 seconds, Maki shows up, it's cool, we get a bit of hope. And then back with Yuta and his domain expansion, we had a bit of hope. But it feels like getting Megumi back is honestly like the only way they could win this, and I really don't know, especially with the next chapter. I don't know, I think maybe Gege could really pull something out here, something kind of crazy going on, because they've been planning meticulously about this with Sukuna, and it's just, it looks like it's going well, and then it's just like, oh wait, but he's not even trying that hard. Oh my god. Like, what are they gonna do about that? But anyways, let's get into chapter 253. Chapter 253, we start with a drawn cover page for Weekly Jump of Sukuna and Yuji and Yuta. And I gotta say, in this whole thing, I know I should be wondering about Yuji's hand, but the only thing I'm really noticing is how beautiful Yuta's eyes are drawn. I really like his eyes. I think they're gorgeous. But okay, anyways, moving on. We also start off this chapter with a color page by Gege that is kind of like the end of the chapter of 251. of Maki stabbing Sukuna. And it's a beautiful color page. Like, I think Maki being all mysterious in his shadow is amazing. And I love that his blood is just like black. I really like Gege's coloring style. It's very like messy and kind of blobby all over the place, but it flows together really well. And I like the line work too, especially on Maki's shadow. Something about it is very satisfying to my brain. And it reads, Maki versus Sukuna. The gong rings with a sneak attack. Very cool. And on top of that, we get, now I've seen it like fully pictured and colored and cleaned and all of that. And we get to see a sneak peek of the next volume cover, which unsurprisingly is Gojo. I'm not surprised in the slightest. But what did surprise me is the actual drawing of him. It is so different than like any of the other volume covers that we've seen so far. It's light and soft and just not a badass crazy pose. I've seen a lot of people initially like disliking this cover, saying it could be better, but I really like it, and it's growing on me the more that I see it. I love it. There's so much meaning, so much symbolism. Like, it's probably like the volume cover you could like break down the most. So we've already seen so many cool poses, so it's nice to see this kind of change, and it was unexpected. Beautiful drawing of Gojo in this winter scene with these flowers, which are like camellia flowers. That's what I've seen people say, like camellia flowers, that's the most likely. And apparently, now this is something I've read on Twitter, so I do have some stuff to back it up, but the camellia flower in Japan, its birth date, or the day that it blooms, is February 3rd, which is Geto's birthday. So I don't know how true that is, but I did see from what I've looked at, the Japanese camellia blooms best from around January to March. So it does kind of check out. And then the meaning of these flowers, I mean, it's not hard to find, but these flowers symbolize love, affection, and adoration. Gege. I feel like he so subtly writes a romance between Gojo and Geto, just like all these like symbolic ways of showing their love for each other without even showing them. It's like, I need Gege to write. I know it would be painful for all of us, but for him writing a romance, I think it would be really good. I think he would do a really good job with writing romance, to be honest. I think it would be tragic and it would be sad. It's got a chokehold on me, this whole volume cover, and the meaning between it and his final chapter there with talking about heading south, and all the symbolism with Geto. There's so much there that is just so lovely and makes me love Gojo and Geto's relationship more and more. But that's why I really love this cover. But anyways, let me talk about the chapter now. Okay, so actually on to the chapter. We start out this page that reminds me of the time that people were asking, and now this is like at the end of a volume, but it reminds me of the time that people were asked about what Satoru Gojo meant to them, and they all said something, but then at the end they all said, and he's the strongest. But this time, we're talking about Kusakabe. This chapter is weird, okay? This chapter is kind of weird. So Meimei, Nanami, and Gojo are asked who's the strongest grade 1 sorcerer, and Meimei says right away it's Kusakabe. Nanami says it depends on the situation, but Kusakabe would be his choice. And Gojo says Kusakabe, but it's different if they're including the big three families, which would probably include people like Naoya and such. But yeah, basically, they all think Kusakabe is the strongest first grade sorcerer, which is a little bit surprising, but also not surprising, solely based on the fact that he took on Uzumaki and didn't flinch. Like that is not a small feat, and it would be hard to see a lot of the other grade ones doing this, so that's literally why I was like, yeah, okay, I can kind of see it. Like, I can kind of see it. So Kusakabe is like, yeah, anyone other than me is the strongest. Cool. Also, he mentioned someone named Usami, which, I mean, I'm very confident he's referencing his younger sister, who we've not met. We saw that Yaga created a cursed corpse from the soul of Kusakabe's nephew. So perhaps Usami was his sister. And also he's saying someone other than me or Usami. So it seems like he's protecting here. He doesn't want his sister to be in danger. So I think it makes the most sense that Usami, because I looked into it, I'm like, who the fuck is Usami? And I'm like, oh, he has this unnamed sister we didn't know about. That is such a random thing to bring up. But yeah, so Usami is, I'm guessing, his sister. Not confirmed, not 100% sure, but the way he talks about it makes me strongly believe that Usami is his sister. So anyways, back to this fight. Maki and Sukuna are still fighting, and then a building is like sliced through and is falling on top of them, and Sukuna is just blocking Maki's sword strikes. So that building falls and shatters, and they're both like this fight is happening fast. They're both on opposite sides of a car, and Sukuna sends Maki flying back into a building, but luckily she's okay. She can take a beating, man. He's chasing her down though. He's able to land a cleave on her, but then Ino, the hero that just never gives up, the guy who just shows back up all the time no matter what. I really respect Ino. So he shows up behind Sukuna, but then Sukuna has this panel of him looking all handsome and sparkly while he throws off a casual cleave at Ino. And I gotta respect the fact that Ino is doing his best. The guy is beat down constantly and still gives it his all. So Sukuna kind of just like beats down on Ino for a bit. But after he notices that Ino isn't holding the cursed tool, aka Nanami's sword. I love getting to see Nanami's sword still being used. And we see in this super cool panel that Kusakabe is standing on a floor directly above Sukuna, and he has Nanami's sword, and Kusakabe uses the sword, but Sukuna notices it a bit too early. Like I said, he catches on quick, and Sukuna is able to defend against it. So Sukuna then just like tosses Kusakabe to the side, but luckily Maki shows right back up in time. And once again, she's drawn like a flash, like she's so quick. So Sukuna and Maki start fighting again, and it sort of looks like she's tossing Sukuna around and through a wall. It's sort of hard to pick up like exactly what's happening sometimes. I think the fact that they're both extremely fast characters makes it a bit difficult sometimes to tell exactly what's happening. Yeah, because Maki's just flying around all over the place. Yeah, Maki says that even if they manage to save Yuta, which I'm sure they will, that if this fight drags on any longer, it's just going to be a serious problem. So they need to end the fight right here and now. And then we get the narrator saying that Kashimo, who I miss, Higuruma, and Yuta are many that stood before Sukuna following the death of Gojo, who all represented the pinnacle of sorcery with their specialized abilities, and they amounted to nothing more than just an appetizer to the beast who is Sukuna. I mean, kind of true. All the, like, Yuta probably did the most, but, like, and Higuruma was able to get rid of that weapon that Sukuna had, but, like, they are, like, they have such toned abilities. Higuruma's a new sorcerer, but, like, they were described as, like, the strongest of their time, like Kashimo was, and, like, the pinnacle of sorcery, these, like, really intense sorcerers that are super strong, and blah, blah, blah. And then it says that they are just no more than an appetizer for Sukuna. Once again, I feel hopeless. Moving on. But Maki is the only one who's roused his hunger since she had completely abandoned Jujutsu by means of heavenly restriction. She is the exception in the most different fight Sukuna has had so far. The fact that she doesn't have curse energy is something he is very amazed by, and he will talk about soon. And it says that this reality brought the king of curses to ecstasy, which, like, okay there. Okay there, sir. Maki kicks a perfect rectangle shape out of a pillar towards Sukuna, and he obviously chops it all out of the way. Okay, I just realized that Sukuna actually was the one who cut that slice through the pillar, and she just kicked it back at him. My bad. It confused me at first, but now I understand. So the next panel we see is he is just right in front of her now. It grabs her face and tosses her out of a building, and he says, unlike that Poor Yuji, just the disrespect all the time. Unlike that half-assed brat Yuji, she shaved everything away until nothing but pure emptiness remains, which is true. Maki has never had cursed energy, unlike Yuji, who does possess cursed energy and is able to use Jujutsu. Maki always relied on her tools, her glasses, and heavenly restriction. Now, I'm not sure if Yuji had cursed energy before eating Sukuna's finger, but it doesn't really matter. He has cursed energy. And after Mai sacrifices herself, I mean, it adds to this whole thing with Maki, and eventually the fully fledged Maki was born, and that is what Sukuna is enjoying so much. So Sukuna says that at its core, sorcery is all skin and flesh, but Maki's body is all marrow and bone, and her existence denies what it means to be a sorcerer, which is exactly true. And it reminds me of when Yuki had her talk with Geto about how to eradicate cursed spirits from even being born. And she brought up Toji, who was someone she wanted to study because he was an exception to this entire world of Jujutsu. And the same now goes for Maki. They can perceive cursed spirits without possessing cursed energy and harden their senses to the point where cursed energy isn't something they even need. And they would have more of a resistance to curses. I think that's more along the lines of what I meant to say there. And draw that hard line between sorcery and, like Sukuna said, just the body. Hope that made sense. So anyways, Sukuna says that the outcome of this fight determines what's better to develop, the body or sorcery. And Maki has noticed that Sukuna has stopped using cursed energy to heal his heart. And Sukuna grabs her sword and he says, "You're the only one who's ever forced a role upon me," which makes sense. Sukuna is the villain that he does what he wants. He always does what he wants to do. If he's has fun, if he's having fun with someone, he plays with them for a while. If he's bored, he kills them. Like, he always does what he wants to do and never really took a role in a fight. But now he has to prove that sorcery is more worth developing than the body. And I don't know if he really seems to be enjoying this fight with Maki. It's very different for him, so maybe he's enjoying that. But then we get to see several angles of Sukuna landing Black Flash on Maki. I mean, he's super in the zone, and I'm not even surprised that he'd be able to land Black Flash right now, but also being hit by 2.5 times of Sukuna's power? Yikes, that's crazy. And sadly, it looks like it got the best of Maki for now, because she's just gone. She's just gone after that. And the only one left in this battle is Kusakabe. Oh shit, I'm the only one left to fight Sukuna. And he's like, where is everyone? He's kind of right though. Choso and Yuji were not in this chapter. But I think Yuji's probably still healing himself up a bit. And then Kusakabe says he was prepared to just get the hell out of there when he could, but now he has no choice. He has to face off against Sukuna. Even the editor didn't believe him. Like, they're just like, wait, what? And he's like, I guess I gotta fight Sukuna then. And that's the end of the chapter, which is so odd. And now we get the break this week, which I said I'm good with. Very weird end. I've seen so many people making fun of poor Kusakabe, who I actually really enjoy his character. I thought he was like super strong, and I wasn't surprised that they said he was the strongest first grade. I didn't find it surprising, to be honest. I feel bad for him. I feel bad for him. Okay, so if I would theorize on what would happen next. I mean, Ino said that Kusakabe could stand against a special grade, but Sukuna's on another level. Like, I don't think Kusakabe's really going to have to do much. I think someone's going to show up, whether it's Yuji and Choso, or just Yuji, or Maki. Like, Maki's just gone. And I know being hit with Black Flash by Sukuna would be, like, a massive deal, so I'm not, like, expecting her to just get up and keep going, but like there's a good chance Maki shows back up. Then there's other people. I mean, this will be a good time to pull out someone we haven't seen in a while or something like that. I have no idea what they're gonna do next. Like, it really feels hopeless. I love reading this, but it feels hopeless. I'm really not sure. I would love for Maki to show back up. I feel like there's more she could do. Yeah, I would like to see her back. I don't think Yuta's coming back anytime soon, maybe, but I doubt it. I think the fact that Wee Wee is now here, like teleporting people around, just makes so many more things possible. And it'll be interesting to know what their next line of defense or their next plan was. Like, was this the end of their plans? That if Maki lost, that's just it? Like, they must have more going on than that. But it makes it seem like Kusakabe is like, so it's just me now. What do I do? I don't think Kusakabe is gonna die. I know that's crazy, but I think someone's gonna show up. I think maybe he will take on some hits from Sukuna. Maybe. Kusakabe is a very defensive character. He's good at taking on hits. I haven't really seen him actually fighting that much, so I'm not really sure. Let me know what you think. These were some interesting chapters. Really like Maki versus Sukuna, even though it's hard to even tell what's going on sometimes because it's so fast. Still, the more I think about it, the more this whole arc animated. One, I feel bad. I just feel bad for Mappa. It's like constant fighting for like so many chapters. It's gonna be a pain to animate. But when it is animated, it'll look amazing. Holy crap. So yeah, those are my thoughts right now. Yeah, let me know what you think. Please comment, like, subscribe, all of that. And I will see you in the next few chapters. Hopefully some hope is had. And Kusakabe doesn't die, and Choso doesn't die. As long as Choso doesn't die, I don't really care, to be honest. But no, I would like Kusakabe to live. But anyways, all right. Bye-bye.